Nonprofit and philanthropic leaders devote their lives to the service of others, but sometimes they need a little help. Kristine Michie has been deep in the work and the play of helping changemakers grow their impact for decades. So whether you're ladling soup at a local shelter or attending a UN peace conference, you need to find the balance between the heavy work and a light touch so you don't burn out. And Kristine believes play is at the center of that. Welcome to the Playful Podcast, bringing fun to the serious work of changing the world.
Everyone, welcome back to the Playful Podcast. We are in our Innovators and Disruptors series, and I have a playful alumni here, and a brand new friend and guest to the podcast. So Johanne Meleance is here, and Jeanine Abrams McLean is here for her third visit, and I'm here, and so glad to welcome you both to today's episode. And we've got an international group today. Johanne, who's based in Cap Haiti, which is in northern Haiti usually, but is today calling in from Santiago, Chile. And Jeanine is calling in for her home base in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, ladies.
Hello, Kristine. It's so good to see you, and good to see you, Johanne.
Yes, hello, everyone. Hello, Kristine. And Jeanine, always a pleasure to hear from you.
Wonderful. So glad you're both here. So folks, we've got so much talent and so much experience on this call today in the realm of, kind of this idea of bringing fun to the serious work of changing the world, which is, of course, the theme of the podcast. Johanne working her organization called Help for Haiti. The name describes it at its very essence, but we're going to have you tell us more about that. And then Jeanine with her work in the Southeast in the U.S. At faircount.org, working on the participation through being counted, literally being counted, and a little bit of the origin story of Fair Count, and that your sister and you started together, Stacey Abrams. And both of you, I know, approach this serious work with a light spirit and a playful heart. And I think it's why you've been able to do it so long and why you do it so well. So so that's a little teaser, but then let's do this. Jeanine and Johanne don't know each other for decades. They know each other for a bit of time. And I want you to share with us the story of how you two met, because it's a playful story. Who wants to start?
Jeanine, or do you want to go?
You can start, Johanne.
So basically, I was in Brazil in November last year, going to the climate change, UN climate change conference, and heading to Salvador, and waiting for the plane. And somehow my phone, the screen protector has a crack, and then the crack, a piece of it went inside my finger, and it's like hurting, and I'm bleeding, and I don't want to make a scene because I don't want to miss my train. So I'm just like, who can I talk to? I don't speak Portuguese. And here I see Jeanine ready to board. And I was like, okay, let me take a chance and let me approach this person. I'm like, hi, do you speak English? She's like, yes, I speak English, with her American accent. I was so excited. I was like, yes. And I explained to her my situation. She said, oh, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But she gave me a little, what do we call this? Like a
Tweezers. They were my makeup tweezers.
Yeah.
She's
She's like, well, it's not clean. I was like, yes, it will do the trick. And then eventually we started chatting, talking, exchanging numbers. And we both were in Salvador for a short period of time. And we ended up hanging out the entire time. Jeanine was before me, and I stayed behind. And the rest is history. We happened to be born in the same month. We happen to be mothers of boys. We are all in so many similarities that had it not been for that trip, we would have never crossed paths. That's how I see it.
Exactly. It was fate. And,
Totally.
and I think it was even, obviously Johanne was there for, was it COP 50? Or damn it.
Yeah,
For the climate.
30. Yeah, COP 30. COP 30.
Not 30. I never remember the numbers. But it was fantastic because we're talking, because she's got glass in her finger. But but we also started to talk about like what we did, the fact that we were both in the nonprofit space, the fact that we both like, just our conversations, getting to know each other over the days, real talk over a couple of caipirinhas here and there. It was just wonderful to see, like, to be able to meet someone that actually like really approached the work, because we hear about everything that's happening in Haiti. And I learned so much from Johanne about, we hear the things on TV, but to hear her talk about, like, yeah, you see that on TV, but that's not the entire country. The work that she's doing is, especially with the children, is amazing. And as you can already see, she just has such a bright spirit and aura. And so it was destined for
Absolutely.
together.
Well, and given like it feels like the through lines, or let's picture like a tapestry, right? If this tapestry of you two coming to know each other, the colors, right? Some of the predominant colors that would weave through, that would be really thick and predominant because you both care about so many of the same things, and geography is relevant in some ways and also not, right? Because people are people, right? And you guys are both working on how to help people. And you both have spent a lot of time in very place-based work in different places. Tell me, Jeanine, what about what you do and what you've learned felt familiar when Johanne was talking about what she's doing?
I would say I'd go back to what I just said about, this stereotypes around what is happening in Haiti, about who is impacted, about the Haitian people. Like that is very akin to the work that we do at Fair Count in terms of civic engagement, especially in the South, thinking about the South as this monolithic, white conservative, area. But not, people to understand that the South is very diverse, not just in, typical demographics, but in just culturally diverse. And when we think about, when I first got into this space, because, I was a scientist,
At the CDC, right?
At the CDC, yes. When I first got into this space, especially around the census, there was a lot of conversation about hard to count communities, right? And, at Fair Count, we have a co-leadership model. And so I run Fair Count with my bestie, Rebecca DeHart, who's our CEO. And Rebecca and I, we had an immediate reaction to this idea of hard to count, because it implied that there was something inherently wrong with the people that were historically and persistently undercounted. So when you talk about the Black folks that weren't getting counted, the Latinos, the Native Americans, the renters that weren't getting counted, that hard to count label implied that there was something inherently wrong with those populations, when in fact the issue was that the systems designed to count them were flawed. And so, one of the things that I'm excited about or happy about is that now we refer to even the Census Bureau refers to these communities that have been historically and persistently undercounted, not as hard to count, but as historically undercounted populations. But I say that to say that there was this idea that there was something. And, in the South, there's a lot of undercounts in the South. In the 2020 census, 5 of the 6 states that were statistically undercounted were in the South. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong in the South. You just need to design the systems better to count us. And so that was something that I picked on in my conversations with Johanne when she is talking about, people think that all the stuff that you see on the news is representative of this entire country. She can tell you the numbers. She's like, that is not however many millions of people. And, she's like throwing these numbers out. And I could see that similarity between the work that we do and also how we approach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Johanne. Tell me
No,
what that makes you feel.
I cannot in my day. Exactly, because I need to be careful how I speak, because currently, not like I want to be political, but this month has been very a difficult month for Haitian Americans in the United States community, where the current administration is talking about ending people's temporary protected status to relocate back in Haiti. My experience, I'm not saying that all of Haiti is fine, right? There's about 11 million people living in Haiti, but not all of our 11 million people living in Haiti is dealing with what is happening. Yes, Haiti is a poor country in the hemisphere. Yes, Haiti has its challenges. What countries that doesn't have their challenges? But at the same time, there are young professional Haitians that are working every day trying to give a different story about that country. And me, I was born in Haiti, grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. In 2015, I decided to move back to Haiti. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you safe?" And I'm just like, I felt like that was the best decision I have made in my life, to be able to use what I was privileged to have, going to university in the United States, working in the United States, and going back to Haiti and sharing with people who wants to be better, who wants to make their life better. So when I was telling the stories, sharing the story with Jeanine, not only I can see that she truly wants to hear the different stories based on what the news is saying, but also there was a lot of similarities, like she already mentioned, that Haiti is different. Haiti is a country like every other country with its challenges, but there's also a lot of people working in their leadership to make things different, and that's whenever I get the opportunity to share that, I'm like talking, and I'm super excited to say that, because our story is different. My story is different. It's unfortunate that the capital, 90% of the capital, is what the news has said is being controlled by the gangs. But the other part of the country is going well. My children are growing up there. My husband worked there, and we are okay. It's not perfect, but we are okay.
Thank you both so much for all that. It's making me think of this idea. There's a gentleman who's been on the podcast. I've mentioned him a couple times lately, Trabian Shorters, with an organization called Be Me Community. And he has a real model around asset framing versus, problem framing and the deficit framing. And I'll tell you, as a little baby fundraiser 30 years ago, when I took a grant writing class, they said, focus on the problem statement. That's what you need to really get a good problem statement. And I'm so sorry to say that, kind of over 30 years, that model kept getting reinforced in terms of how to tell the story to get people's attention, to help with something, right? And I'm really challenging myself to try and start those conversations, whether it's in writing or conversation, with a positive asset statement. Ladies, how much do you think numbers? Jeanine, I'll ask you this first, coming from your background as a researcher. How do you rank or interchange numbers versus images, and I guess, or story, to help change perception? How do you serve those up and find it most effective?
So I will say, as a scientist, in my past life as a scientist, you throw numbers up there, you write your research papers, but you always have pretty pictures to go along with it, right? You have your graphs, you have your figures. If you got a really good journal and some money, they can be in color, right? And so that there's always, you have to have, and even being a former teacher, people have different learning modalities. And so some people are going to latch on to the numbers. At Fair Count, we are data driven. We are going to have, if you need to know how many, what we did, how many people we contacted, the different methods we used, the contact rate, we can tell you all of that. But we also are very focused on storytelling, on the qualitative data that people, when I describe my work, because people ask me a lot, oh, do you miss being in the lab, or, being a scientist? And I said, yeah, I was an evolutionary biologist. I focused on seeing change, like watching or studying, not watching, but studying how different, organisms changed over time. But evolution is a long process, right? You're talking millions of years for a lot of things, and unless it's bacteria, but we're not going to get into all that. But the thing that I love about the work that we do here at Fair Count is because I've been able to see in real time communities evolve. And yes, I can go back and look at the numbers, how many engagements we had. We can look at the vote share gaps and see how those have changed. We can look at the difference between the self-response rates and the census. But what really matters to me and what matters a lot to our team are talking to the people in these communities, understanding that folks that when we first got there said, why the heck are you talking to me about a census? What is that? To being like, wait a minute, there's shenanigans around the census right now. What can we do to help mitigate those issues? There's an election coming up. How can I engage my community? How can I be a part of this? How can I volunteer? And so to be able to see that, you can track it with the numbers, but I think the more impactful part of it is the actual story, because, and especially in the South, we talk in stories.
Yeah.
And so for people to be able to tell the story about how their communities have changed because they've become engaged in it, that to me is the, like, chef's kiss.
Absolutely. Johanne, how about you? How does that resonate for you in terms of you getting the help for Haiti that you seek, and the kind of help because this whole thing of like help is kind of a loaded thing, right? You want to start with have people come add to the beauty, right? That's the kind of help. How does stories, statistics, and images help with that?
Yeah, so I joined Help for Haiti in 2018, and I become their executive director in 2020. And that shift helped me understand numbers, how storytelling is very important, numbers, and quantitative is very important. When you have people donating money to you, you have to show them what you've been doing with the money. But qualitative is very powerful. Like Haitian culture, similarly with the South in the United States, we believe so much in storytelling. This is like our foundation. Even our language, like our expression, is all about engaging someone into what the story that we are telling. And over the years, what I come to understand, I remember when they hired me, they were like, okay, we want the organization to become a Haitian-led organization. And I didn't grasp it because, the nonprofit world or the international nonprofit world, right? It's missionaries in external coming to Haiti and doing everything for us. But by the leadership telling me, no, we want it to be Haitian-led, that was somewhat disruptive with what I've known. It's like, how do you make it Haitian-led? Do they know enough? Will they be able to keep it? And the slogan is oftentimes, once the foreigners leave, all these nonprofits collapse. But what I've seen with Help for Haiti all these years is that people are stepping up. The narrative is shifting. It's the evolution is like Jeanine is saying, is happening even in the nonprofit world, even though I'm not inside. It's like young Haitians are stepping up and are taking leadership, being at the forefront. It's like, what do you want to do? Is how are we going to do it? How are we going to measure it? How are we going to structure it so that it makes sense for us? And even though, yes, I'm Haitian, but I have to admit that I'm also Haitian American. I need to be also mindful of that, not to bring let me tell you what to do, but rather invite you to sit at the table and challenging what I think makes sense. And that, when I go in fundraising, when I'm writing grants, all of that, I need to take these stories in consideration. I need to be the voice that they cannot travel and do around the world. And I need to do that. So for me, that resonates, regardless of which country you are, which part of the United States you are, storytelling is important to articulate and express for these people to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Now, sometimes I get a little going and need to go backfill a little bit. So I'd love you each to kind of give a quick, what is Fair Count? What is Help for Haiti? What are you and then kind of like, what are you specifically working on right now, Jeanine? I was looking back at our history. The first time you were on the podcast was almost 3 years ago. or no, I'm sorry, 2024, 2 years ago, coming up. And that's, and this is like dog years lately. I mean, like 2 years in this time is really a long time. Love to hear, have you describe, what do you want the audience to know about Fair Count in this moment? And then if you could, because we're on the Playful podcast, throw in a little like in how you're using play right now, to what purpose. And Joanne, then I'll ask you to do the same, kind of a real clear overview for people so they know how they can help you, help Haiti, be involved, and then how playfulness is a part of your strategy. All right, Jeanine.
So Fair Count, we are a nonpartisan nonprofit. We focus on all things democracy, census, voting, and redistricting, which we call the 3 pillars of democracy. We do this work by doing deep dive, non-extractive community organizing, which means we go into communities and we don't just leave after an election. We don't just leave after the census is taken. We remain embedded and in contact with those communities, because that's how you build up the infrastructure so that we can get more people engaged and to get them into to sustain that engagement. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia, or our office in Atlanta, Georgia. We're based in Georgia, but we work around the country. We're doing work in, we have a big, strong focus on the South, but we work with partners around the country. Right now, we are fighting to save our democracy. We are still focusing on the upcoming 2030 census, which is being attacked and dismantled by the current administration. This is nonpartisan. This is just facts. We are, gearing up for elections. For our primaries and also general elections, with a particular focus on Georgia and Mississippi. And we are working with our partners across the country, and in some cases across the globe, to fight against authoritarianism. One of the projects that that I want people to check out is the 10 Steps campaign, which tells people about what authoritarianism is and how individuals and groups can work together to push back against that. So we're a part of that coalition. And how do I center joy and playfulness? One of the things that Joanne just talked about was getting youth and young folks engaged. And that's one thing that a lot, especially in the civic engagement space, is how do we get young people engaged? And so Fair Count, we are working on, and hopefully in the next few months, we'll have a video game on a major platform that is specifically focused on teaching middle school and high school students in a playful way about civic engagement, that centers that civic engagement is not just voting, even though voting is important, that community engagement and civic engagement are things that you do already, but how can you really amplify that to make your community better? And so literally a video game is
really a game
that I'm excited about.
Love it. And so that'll be something that folks, if they're watching your website, they'll be able to know when that's launching and coming out.
Mm-hmm. And if you go to our website, sign up for our newsletter. We'll keep you abreast of everything that's going on in democracy world, including the fun things. And so, yes, if you go to faircount.org, you can find us.
And Jeanine, would you be targeting teachers as part of that? They would be bringing it into their classrooms?
Bring it into their classrooms. We're actually working on the curriculum now. A big part of it is, hey, I used to be a public school teacher. They might not let me play this use this particular platform in the classroom, but that doesn't mean that you can't use it for homework, for short or long projects, things like that. So yes, definitely developing curriculum, testing it with teachers, testing it with kids. And so far we have some really positive feedback. So I'm looking
forward. And one more question about what age group is it targeting?
Middle school and high school. But I'll tell you, my 10-year-old played it. And he was like, he answered the questions. He knew what one of the earlier versions. We're still building it. But I had my 10-year-old and my 14-year-old played it. And they were both, because I told them, don't sit up here and tell me what you think I want to hear. Because if that's the case, it's going to be a bad game. And so they were very honest about what they liked and what they didn't like. And so we're using that to really develop the game. But I think it's going to be a success.
Fantastic. All right. That's really fun to know about. I feel like we got a little sneak peek of that. All right, Joanne. So please, if you would, what do you want a headline, elevator pitch, we sometimes call it, about Help for Haiti? And then I can, your smile is like the whole thing. That answers my question, but like how you bring joy and play and love into the work and how you find that to be how it is more effective.
But I can tell you, if it's not fun, I wouldn't be part of it because I'm a fun person. I'm always smiling. But Help for Haiti started in 2010, right after the earthquake, back in January 12th, 2010. And our main focus is on three pillar missions, on three pillar: educate, feed, and employ. So we do that across northern of Haiti, where in the education part, we partner with two schools that already established, and we provide professional development to the administration and the teachers. We provide tuition assistance for the parents. We mainly work with disadvantaged children, so we provide tuition assistance to the parents so that they can keep the kids going to school, especially in the rural area in Marmalade where we work. Oftentimes in Haiti, parents don't send the kids to school not because they disbelieve in schools education, is because sometimes it's a long distance to walk to commute to go to school. Sometimes it's the school fees are too expensive for them to keep up. So where we step in, we like, hey, send your kids to school, and we will provide tuition assistance. We just believe that everything must be free so that parents can take pride and ownership. Is like, I did everything I can to send my kids to school. Even though it's 10 cents you can give, you're still gonna have to contribute to your child's education so that you can feel at the end of the day you contributed to something. And in the feeding aspect, right? Feeding is very crucial. When the kids come to school hungry or worries what they're gonna eat at home, they are unable to stay focused in learning. So we also address this aspect. When they come to school, we make sure that they get a free hot lunch meal every day so that they are engaged, fully engaged with the school, that with the stuff they're learning at school. And not worry about feeling hungry. And the last component, a focus on both youth and adult, which is our employee program, right? We started since middle school because oftentimes, because of the situation certain families are going through, dropout is very high in Haiti because this youth, they go to school and they stay in a grade not by their age, but it's by merit. So if they start school late, they might be an example. You might have a 13-year-old who's in a elementary school or primary school. And as they're getting older, the life expectation is heavier and heavier on them, and they drop out. So when we know that, we call them at-risk students. So when we know they are within that category, we give them entrepreneurship skills so that if they do decide to make that choice, but they have something that they can use to go in the wide world. So with our entrepreneurship program in the youth program, we do scenarios where they learn about businesses. If you're a director, how to ask for a bank, what are some questions you need to answer, and then what is profit, what's in interest, because when you borrow money, you have to be able to pay it back. So all of that, we start with them since grade 5 and so up. And for adults who are the parents, sometimes they had basic education, sometimes they had university educations, but because the system is so rigid, they cannot find ways to break that multi-generation poverty cycle. So with giving them entrepreneurship workshops and skills, and also providing capitals so that they can start their small business, we give them a chance to be in control of their destiny, in control what their future for themselves or their family could be. So in a nutshell, that's all we do in
great.
With the nonprofit of Haiti. And I believe how playfulness comes with it is just like, this is a platform so that we can We are a small nonprofit. This is a platform for people to know what are some great ideas, some great things that are happening in Haiti by Haitians. And yes, there are many other things that are happening, but there are great things where children stay at school, they are learning, they want to learn, parents want to invest in themselves and in their family. And if we were to go to our website, you will see many of those things that's happening in Haiti. And on a quick note, on March 8th, we're gonna have a lot of fundraising. It's gonna be both in person and virtual. So if you go on our website, you'll be able to take a look at it and participate and learn more about what we do. I hope I miss a lot of things due to time, but by participating in that event, you get to learn more about what we do.
Okay, well, when folks are listening to this, and then I'm going to make a promise that I'm going to ask my production team to hustle up and get this recording out before March 8th, which I think is really soon. I want to see if I guess it's not a promise, it's a goal. I'm going to try and do that so we can get a little attention for that.
Thank you.
Even though it's just days away, so that when people hear this, they can take that action. I love it. Gals, if you want to step away and get your ice cream,
All right.
and I'm going to get mine, and then we're going to come talk about what's the scoop on how you came to care, a little bit of the origin story about why do you give so much? Why do you care so much? And some stories about that. Okay, we are back with our ice cream. So folks, you probably know by now in our third year of the podcast that we eat ice cream on the podcast, just to remind ourselves that we can do heavy work and have fun. And there's sweetness here. So with our international, I'm not able to always get the same ice cream to everybody at the same time. Joanne, what ice cream did you find in Santiago, Chile today to bring to the recording?
Little correction, Santiago, Dominican Republic.
Oh, sorry, DR. Sorry. Oh, I said Chile before. Okay, gotcha.
It's okay. I'm having vanilla because I'm with my son and we went out shopping and I said, go pick up an ice cream. And he's like, vanilla is my favorite. So in order for him, we are having vanilla. If it was from me, it would be black raspberry. That's one of my favorite ice cream. But that's what we are having.
Excellent. All right. And then Jeanine, what did you select?
I was sent some delicious Ben and Jerry's. And I selected the half baked because I am always going to eat the cookie dough and the cake batter mix. And so this is delicious.
Oh, so good. Ben and Jerry's has been a sponsor of ours, and a couple folks from Ben and Jerry's have been on. Our longest standing sponsor is Taharka Brothers, based in Baltimore, Maryland, social enterprise, ice cream company. But today we are having Ben and Jerry's, and I'm having this. I have this all the time. This is the Ava DuVernay flavor. They did like a collab, as they call it. It's called Lights Caramel Action. She's a filmmaker of great renown, and this is vanilla. But here's the headliners with salted caramel swirls, graham cracker chunks, and chocolate chip cookie dough.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Oh yeah. Okay,
You need to send me some. Well, I don't know what I have in the United States.
I want to figure out how to get it to you. Yeah, maybe we just need to coordinate when you're in the States at some hotel. I'll flood you with ice cream. Okay, so it's true of everybody who's on the podcast, but it's not true of everybody in the world that you have an others focused life, right? Of course, you care about those closest to you, and you take care of yourself critically, but you really know and believe that you have a role to play more broadly. And I wonder, Joanne, if you could share a story of, and you've been all over the world, right? Like you could just go be collecting experiences and you'd be a lovely person, and of course that'd be great, but you just have this giving way about you. Do you have an early memory of that feeling, or how that might have started?
Ooh, I would say it started with my family. Growing up, we are three. I'm the youngest child. And my dad, being a preacher that he was, our house has like always cousins that he's taking care of, right? Coming from the countryside, coming and stay with us. And it was almost like inevitable not to have enough and not want to share. And and surprisingly, that's really what is stand out for me is like, if you're able to be privileged to have enough, why not share? That will be a sense of security. So the way I make sure I'm safe is to help others with what I have, and the little that I have. And that's how I'm ended up in Haiti. That's how I ended up traveling the world and always wanting to give back and helping others. Basically, it started in my household.
I have a big bite of ice cream.
Excuse me, sorry.
Well, and I just thank you. No one has in these 3 years when I've asked this question, I've never heard anyone state it like that. That in the helping, you find your own security. And isn't that interesting? Because I think in a scarcity mindset, which I think this fear-based scarcity mindset that I think is pervasive in the US right now, which is causing this sense of, this fear that someone's going to take what you have or you won't be able to get what you want, and it pits us against each other, which I don't actually believe most people feel. It's a loud voice right now. But I love that you're stating that in giving, I guess that's that you receive, right? Your security is bolstered as you give to others. It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's true.
Yeah. Thank you. And Jeanine, I know we've gotten to talk before, but not everyone's heard all of your episodes. So love you to share either what you've shared before or what comes to mind when you think about your impact origin story. You come from a family also, I know, of doers and givers and helpers. What comes to mind?
Well, I'm gonna promise. So Joanne and I are the same age, born in the same month. And now I know we didn't talk about this. But Joanne just mentioned that her father was a pastor. Both of my parents are preachers. And in our family, we were told, like, we grew up poor in Mississippi, but our parents told us that regardless of how little we had, there was always someone who had less. And it was our responsibility to take care of those people. And so, and maybe it's a preacher thing, I don't know. but it's all, and that even extended into our professional lives. So like I said, I haven't always been in this space. I've only been in the civic engagement space for 7 years. But before that, like, my parents were very clear, whatever you do needs to have some positive impact on the community. And so people might not think that being an evolutionary biologist is like it's something that is having that, but I ended up being in public health. For my dissertation, I worked on a system to help, stem some of the, or mitigate some of the issues with amphibian population declines. Like, there's always been some sort of, there has to be a meaning attached to it, where you're improving the world around you. And that was something that was ingrained in us from the beginning. I was on my friend Tessa Dooms has a radio station, or she has a radio show in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I was on that the other day. And one of the things that came up was I was reminded of the first protest that my parents took me to. I was 7 years old, and we were in Atlanta protesting Shell gas stations because they supported apartheid. And that, again, is something that my parents at a young age, we stand up against what is wrong. And so, I just think it's something mom and daddy, they, I don't know if it was in the gametes or not, but it was definitely in, like, you're going to learn this today if you live in this house, that you help other people.
The gametes. I think that sounds like 10th grade biology, something I was supposed to retain. Okay, I love it. Thank you. And God bless the parents. God bless those that I've heard a lot about moms and dads and grandparents and an important teacher and a key uncle. I mean, all of that, aunties and
yeah.
And I'm so grateful. I think, I'm pretty sure that we're all doing that also for our kids, our family, and those that watch us in the world. All right. So as our wrap up, I'd love you each to give a call to action that is something that the audience could do. We've talked about going to your websites. We're going to be watching for the game. If there's something that you'd like people, an action they could take to support your organization or support kind of broadly things that you're working on and care about, I'd love to get a shout out for that. Go ahead, Johanne.
Yeah. Just like you, I'm doing myself, my screen. Call for action for me will be Haitians are strong, we're resilient, and we believe that our paradigm will shift. Do get engaged, do learn more about Haiti and not just what the mainstream is telling us. There's a lot is happening. Help for Haiti is one of the small organizations who's doing it as we making it community centered, as we making it Haitian-led organization. And there's probably many others. So get involved, sign up, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to provide more information that I can, and don't let this negative noise that is happening wherever across the world make you believe that the world is bad. The world is not that bad. And the more we disbelieve in that, the more we're gonna all of us do what we are called to do. That's my call of action.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, Jeanine.
My message is always going to be get engaged. You can, one of the things that I mentioned was the democratic backsliding. You can call it democratic backsliding. You can call it the rise of authoritarianism in our country. But it is about our freedoms. And I need people. I think it's very easy for us to say that's happening over there, right? But it's happening here.
Right.
And I need people to pay attention to what is going on and to not let it get to you don't want it to get to the point where it's happening directly to you. And the way that you stop that is by educating yourself now. There are plenty of organizations that you got Protect Democracy. You've got KESAB. You've got, which looks at it from an international perspective. I think you had your Dono-san from KESAB. You have that. You have the 10 Steps program that, if you go to, I think it's 10stepscampaign.com or .org. But you have these resources that can show you, this is what this looks like. This is the playbook. But also, this is what you as an individual can do to save our democracy. And so my thing is educate yourself, get engaged, and do something because it is going to take all of us to make sure that we maintain the freedoms that we have in this country and that we are and we can learn from other folks around the world. But we have to start here if we want to protect American democracy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, whereas we might have thought as Americans that, we were the model, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think now we're going to want other people around the world to know that there's more going on than the stuff that's in the news too, right? And that how loud and how visible can we all be with our good efforts so that people see these other stories coming out of America right now, right? That you're sharing, that you've just shared with us both. So, ladies, think
you can do it too. I'm not saying you have to be like, a warrior in the street right now. You can be creative with the way that you talk about this to get other people to listen. I just, whatever you need to, but I just need people to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are tons of arts organizations and activists that are coming together and finding ways to perform and play together.
Mm-hmm.
I have really seen in this most challenging time, this insistence on joy and play, and this you can't take our joy. And Joanne, you talked about the resiliency and persistence of the Haitian people, and I think we are inspired by that, and we need to do that, and are doing that ourselves as well. Okay, ladies, thank you for joining me for some ice cream this morning. Thank you for the work you're doing out in the world, and we will look forward to keeping in touch and watching how you're bringing fun to the serious work of changing the world. Thank you.
Kristine,
thank you.
Thank you, Kristine. Thank you, Jeanine.
Yes.
Bye, ladies.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the Playful Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you know of a leader or organization that's doing good in the world and you'd love to help us help them amplify their message, I would love to have them on the show. go to the show notes and click there, or go to impactfulinc.com/contact. And that's impactful with 2 L's, inc.com/contact. And let us know who you're thinking about. Can't wait to see you next time.